The day Yusuf carried her through the village gate, no one offered to open the door for him. They only watched. Some covered their mouths, some turned away, and a few, the ones who had known him longest, shook their heads slowly, the way people do when they have already decided a man has lost his mind. She was old, older than anyone could say for certain. Her back curved like a branch that had endured too many winters. Her eyes were pale, almost white at the edges, and she did not speak when spoken to, only stared at something beyond the person in front of her, as though she were watching a world no one else could see. The village had a name for her. They had been calling her that name for 30 years. The Witch of the Eastern Road. The woman who lived between the two dry hills where nothing grew, and the wind always sounded like it was mourning something. Yusuf had found her collapsed in the dust 3 days' walk from anywhere. He had been returning from burying his brother in a distant town, already hollowed out from grief, already carrying more than a man should carry. And there she was, just a pile of rags and bones on the cracked earth, with one thin hand stretched out as if asking something of the sky. He did not know her name then. He did not know anything about her. He only knew that he could not walk past a hand like that. And if stories like this, quiet human stories about choices most people wouldn't make, move you even a little, consider subscribing. There are more journeys like Yusuf's waiting for you here. So he lifted her, and he began the long walk home. What followed was not admiration. It was not even pity from the village. It was something colder than both. His neighbors stopped greeting him. His cousin, a man who had eaten at his table every Friday for 20 years, came to his door and told him plainly that a woman like that brought darkness wherever she settled, and that if Yusuf had any sense remaining, he would take her back to the hills before something terrible happened. Yusuf listened. He thanked his cousin for coming. He closed the door quietly, and he went back inside to where the old woman sat on the mat he had given her, eating the thin soup he had made, her pale eyes still watching that invisible world of hers. The first months were the hardest. Not because of her, she asked for almost nothing. A little food, a little warmth. She slept long and woke slowly, and sometimes very late at night. Yusuf would hear her whispering in a voice so low, it was almost breath. He never moved closer to hear the words. He told himself it was not his business. He told himself he was not afraid. But there were nights when he sat by the dying fire and felt the full weight of what he had chosen, and he wondered, as all tired men wonder eventually, whether goodness was worth what it cost. His shop began losing customers, slowly at first, then all at once. A trader who had bought grain from him for 15 years came in one morning, looked around at the walls as if searching for something, and left without speaking. Children who used to run past his doorstep now crossed to the other side of the road. His name, once spoken with a kind of easy warmth, became something people lowered their voices around, the way you lower your voice near a sick room or an open grave. He sold one goat to cover winter costs, then the second. He ate less. He smiled less. Not from bitterness, but from a weariness that had settled into his bones the way cold settles into stone, slowly, completely, without asking permission, and still she sat on her mat, and still she whispered into the late-night dark. There was one woman in the village, a widow named Samira, who sold bread from a cloth spread on the ground near the well, who continued to greet Yusuf each morning. Just a nod, just a quiet look that said, "I see you, and I have not decided against you." It was a small thing. But in a season of turned backs, a small thing becomes enormous. Then the rains came late, much too late. The wells dropped. The animals grew thin. Families who had mocked Yusuf began to feel a different kind of fear. Not the fear of a strange old woman, but the older, heavier fear of hunger. And fear, when it spreads through a village, changes the shape of things. Old certainties crack. Old cruelties start to look like mistakes. It was during these dry months that the old woman began to speak, not in whispers, in words, clear, deliberate words, spoken to whoever happened to be near her. She told Yusuf one morning, without introduction, that the eastern field, the one no one had planted in 40 years because the soil was considered ruined, had a channel beneath it, built by men who were long dead, that could be opened with 2 days of digging. She described it the way you describe a place you have visited: the bend in the hidden stone, the depth, the direction of the water. Yusuf dug. 2 days, then 3. His hands blistered, his back screamed, and then, on the afternoon of the 4th day, the water came. It was not a miracle. It was not a sign from the heavens. It was simply water, cold and real, rising up through the earth because someone had thought to look for it. But to a village that had been measuring its days in thirst, it may as well have been the same thing. They came then. First one family, then 3, then the whole village, quiet and uncertain, gathering at Yusuf's door with cups and jars and the particular silence of people who have something to say but have not yet found the courage to say it. The old woman sat on her mat in the corner of the room, eating her thin soup, her pale eyes watching that invisible world. No one apologized directly. That is not how people are. Not usually. If you had been in that village, would you have opened your door to her? Or would you have turned away like the others? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. What they offered instead was presents. The cousin came back and sat down and said nothing for a long time, which was, in its own language, everything. Samira, the bread seller, brought a loaf wrapped in cloth and placed it near the old woman without speaking. A child, no older than 6, sent by some parent too ashamed to come herself, stood in the doorway holding 3 eggs cupped in both hands. The old woman looked at the child, and for the first time since Yusuf had found her on the road, she smiled. Not a wide smile, just a small private one, the kind that belongs to people who have waited a long time for something and have finally, quietly, seen it arrive. Yusuf did not say, "I told you." He did not stand in his doorway with the satisfaction of a man proven right. He simply moved through the room, giving water to those who were thirsty, making space for those who came, carrying the weight of what had happened the same way he had always carried things, steadily, without performance, with the kind of patience that does not ask for witness. Outside, the dry earth had begun to soften. Not everywhere, not all at once, but in the places where the water moved, small things were already changing. The air held a different quality. A dog that had been restless for weeks lay down and closed its eyes. And somewhere in the village, a door that had been shut for a long time swung open on its hinges, not because of a great wind or a dramatic moment, but simply because the person on the other side had finally, humbly, reached out a hand. That is how it usually happens. Not with thunder, with a hand, with water rising through forgotten stone, with a patient man carrying someone no one else would carry, and waiting, without knowing how long the waiting would last, for the earth to show what it had been holding all along.